Hi everybody, welcome to my Fusion 360 Flexible CAD class. My name is Nick Goodson and I teach all things CAD, math and physics. This is the first of 4 videos to introduce you to Fusion 360 and to get you modelling some simple 3D parts, and by video 4 you'll be able to model some more complex geometry and have a very good working knowledge of the software to enable you to go and create anything you like. Accompanying these videos will be a written document with instructions to follow afterwards to complement the videos and to get you going with the CAD software. Also, there will be exercises for you to do in your own time and for you to send me to evaluate, and we can discuss how to optimize your designs and alternative methods of creating parts. I hope you enjoy these videos, so let's take a look at the software. Here we have the Fusion 360 interface. Very first thing to notice is we're in the design environment right now. We've got all of our functionality along the top. We've got this graphics area with the grid turned on. In the top left here in the graphics area, we have the browser, which is really the file structure which contains all of the components, parts, bodies, and any sketches. We've got a view cube in the top right here, which we can drag around, and as you can see, we can view dynamically. I'm just going to click on the front. Right next to that, just to the above to the left, there's a little house icon. If we click that, it takes us back to an isometric type view. And we've also got some functions down the bottom. The very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change a couple of preferences. Under grids and snaps, I'm going to turn off this layout grid because I prefer to design on a blank screen. The other thing I'm going to do is where your name is at the top right, I'm going to pull that down and I'm going to change the preferences, or make sure the preferences are set for the default units on design, or click on design and just make sure that they're in millimeters. Okay. You can also do that in the browser area. If you pull down the document settings and where it says units in millimeters, you can change those active units right here, millimeters, centimeters, and so on. I'll just cancel that. Okay. So in order to create some 2D geometry, we have to sketch either on a flat plane or on a flat surface. So this button here, Create Sketch, I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And as we're designing in 3D space, I can select one of these planes. Now, if I go over to the view cube and just click on front, it brings it normal to view. And I'm going to go ahead and click on that front plane. So now we're in sketch mode, and this window pops up with some features selected on, and also the finish sketch button is at the top right here. That means we're in sketch mode, and we can now go along and look at the 2D sketch tools. Now we need to have some sort of a sketch in order to create any 3D parts. So the more commonly used tools are along the top in this area. There's also a pull down, the create button pull down, which has the full tool set underneath. So let's click on line first of all, and you can just pick a point, and as you move your mouse around, it offers you a different length highlighted in blue, and also the angle. I could set that length just by typing 100 millimeters, and I could tab across to the angle and make that 45 degrees, and then hit enter. So now I have a line 100 millimeters long set at 45 degrees. I could delete those dimensions just simply by clicking on them and hitting delete on the keyboard, or right clicking and hitting delete. Okay, I could add the dimension back in, this sketch dimension button here, pick what I want to dimension, and then just place that somewhere. And I'm actually going to make that a bit longer, 120 millimeters, hit enter. I can go right back and double click on that to change it again, make it 50 millimeters. Everything's modifiable because this is a parametric modeling system. Because I've deleted the angle, I could drag the end of this. No, I can't. I'd need to delete that first. And I can drag that and change that. If I click on it and hit horizontal, vertical, I can make that horizontal. Okay. So that's the line command. I can drag a window around things and hit delete on the keyboard. Like so. Here's the rectangle. Place the first point, place the second point. Again, I could use the dimension tool to add a dimension to the left side. Let's make that 60 millimeters. And to the top edge and make that 100 millimeters. I could double click those dimensions and change them at any time, 60 millimeters, 30 millimeters. Again, I'm going to drag a window around and hit delete on the keyboard to get rid of the geometry. Circle command. Place a point first to center, and then either type in a dimension or just pick a point to finish and hit escape afterwards. It's always good to hit escape to get you out of the function. I could apply a dimension to this afterwards by hitting the dimension button and just clicking on the edge, and it'll give me a diameter dimension. I'm going to make that 50 millimeters. Okay, I could move this circle around. Oops, like that. If I delete the dimension, I could drag the size of the circle to whatever I wanted, or I can just dimension it again. Let's delete that. Then there's a spline, which is a curvy line, if you like. Pick a point, pick a point, pick, double click to finish and hit escape. It shows you then these tangent handles, but if we just click in the background, it just shows you the spline. It does show you the dark grey control points, which you can move around. Okay, you just drag them around. If you click on one, it will show you the tangency handle, and you can just play around with that as well. So a lot of free-form stuff happening there. Okay, let's delete that. And then we've got this mirror command. If I just pop a circle on there like that, doesn't matter what size it is, and I draw a line there, I can use this mirror feature. Now, this window pops up and it's asking me, what do you want to mirror, which object? So I'm going to go ahead and pick the circle. And then I'm going to select the mirror line. Which mirror line am I going to use? This little line here. And as you can see, it just reflects that circle across that line. Hit OK. And I can delete this mirror line afterwards if I don't need it. And again, I can add a dimension, make that 50 millimeters, do the same to this, make this 40 millimeters, and so on. Okay. Now, just a note on mouse controls. If you're using a mouse, scrolling the wheel zooms in and out, and depending where your cursor is, depends on the focus of the zoom. Okay. So just scrolling the wheel zooms in and out. If you hit Control on your keyboard and then click the mouse wheel down, you're panning around. If you hit the Shift key on your keyboard and press the mouse wheel down, you're viewing dynamically like so. If you're not quite looking normal to the plane, flat to the plane, you can go right ahead and click on front on the view cube to get back to normal. Incidentally, if you're using a laptop touchpad, you can use 2 fingers, dragging up and down, backwards and forwards to zoom in and out. You can click on this pan hand icon down the bottom and click the left button on the touchpad and just pan around, or you can use this free orbit and the little left key on the touchpad just to view dynamically like that. It's best really to use a mouse. Okay, so let's go ahead and delete these 2 circles. Now if I create a rectangle on here, I've got this fillet tool at the top that basically gives us a round edge on a corner. So if I select a corner, and I can set that to, for example, 20 millimeters radial fillet and hit enter. And then it gives us the dimension which we can drag around, and that just says that that's a radius of 20 mil quarter circle fillet on this rectangle corner. And it shows you the tangency controls. It means it's tangent to this top edge and this left edge. Okay, I can put another fillet on this edge, make that slightly bigger, 50 millimeters, hit enter. Okay, if I draw a line through this rectangle, and I've got this trim tool. If I hit trim, it basically trims whatever I'm selecting to the nearest piece of available geometry, like that. And I can do the same to this end. If I create another line just here, there's trim, which we just used. There's also extend, which does the opposite. It extends an existing piece of geometry to the next available piece. Okay. Also under here is break. You can take an existing line or curve and you can select it and it'll break it where there's a crossover. Okay, so now we've got 2, if we zoom in, we've got 2 separate lines broken by this line here. Let's get rid of these lines now, just delete these out. I'm going to delete these dimensions too. The last sketch tool I want to quickly look at is offset. Now basically it does what it says, it offsets curves. I've got chain selection checked on right now. If I turn that off, I can just pick individual lines and curves. Okay. But as I've got it selected on, it's going to select anything as part of the chain, which is the entire shape profile. So I'm going to pick that, and it now offers me an offset position. I could change that to 10, for example, and I can drag that with this little handle here, and I can drag it inside, or I could just flip the offset and hit OK. And it gives me a nice offset. Very useful tool. I'm going to go ahead and delete those. Also, if I put a line on here, although I can move this line around in free space, I can also use, under the modify pull down, there's a move and copy function. If I select the line,
I can move it in the X, Y, or Z direction. I can change its angle. If I check on create copy, it will create a carbon copy of it. Let's say 50 mil in the X direction. Hit OK, and it will create a copy of that. Obviously, if I hadn't checked copy on, it would just move the line across. Let's go ahead and delete those. I want to take you through now some of these constraints. If I've got two lines on the screen like this, I want to make those parallel. I can hit this parallel constraint. I can select one, select the other, and it makes them parallel. Okay. If, again, I've got a couple of lines on here, I've got the perpendicular constraint, which will make one right angled to the other. Okay. Could then drag this handle and join it onto the other one like that. If I've got a line and a circle on the screen, show you a couple of things now. If I make this line tangent to the circle, pick the line, pick the circle, it makes it tangent. I don't know what that spurious line is. That's better. So it makes it tangent to that circle. Okay. At any time you can undo with this top arrow, just undo the last command. I can go back, back, back all the way. So if you make any mistakes, it's very easy to fix. If I've got a line on here, again, and a circle, excuse me, I could lock one of these into position. So let's lock this line, fix it. Okay. Now if I apply the tangency constraint between the line and the circle pops over to the line because the line's fixed now, so it couldn't move. Okay. Now let's go right ahead and create some 3D models from some 2D geometry.
Okay, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the top left under File, and I'm going to say New Design. So I'm creating a new design here, and I'm going to save this as Nick Test. And that's located in my admin project where all my other little bits and pieces are. And this is saved onto the Autodesk servers in the cloud. So Fusion 360 saves to the cloud. And go right ahead and say save. Okay, so in order to create some 3D geometry, we need some 2D sketches. So I'm going to go ahead and hit create sketch. I'm just going to click on the front of the view cube and then select this front plane. Now I'm going to create a circle there, and I'm just going to make that using the sketch dimension tool. I'm going to make that 100mm diameter. It's now gone black, it means it's fully constrained, positioned and sized. And down in the left here where this small icon is, it says sketch 1, this is the start of our history line or history tree, and this shows us as we build up the part exactly how we did it, and we can go back in at any time and modify things and edit geometry and features. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is, I'm happy with my sketch. I'm going to go over here and hit finish sketch. I'm done with the sketch right now. Now this brings up all of our 3D functionality along the top. Now, the first one of these is extrude. So I'm going to go ahead and hit that, and it recognizes that there's geometry on the screen and automatically highlights it. Right now it's defaulted to 0 distance. I'm going to change that to 50mm. And as you can see, it previews what we're going to do. Okay, I'm going to make that 60. Let's go back, sorry. Let's hit that again. Make that 50. And I could drag this arrow to make it longer, 90 mil, 100 millimeters, and so on. The operation is set to new body. There's nothing to cut. We've got several options under there. There's nothing to join it to, so it's a new body, and I'm going to hit OK. So now we've got a solid cylinder. And just to show that that's solid, we've got this inspect tool. Okay, I'm going to pull that down, and underneath there is section analysis. And I'm going to choose this plane at the end here. Okay, and then I can just pull this arrow and it shows you the hatch lines, the cross hatch lines, that this is indeed a solid part. Okay, I could choose a different plane to inspect. I'm going to cancel that for now. So there's our solid part. Now we can view this in different modes. The display settings at the bottom here. If we look at visual style, I'm currently, and I believe it defaults to shaded with the visible edges only. So you can see the visible edges in black there. If I went to shaded instead, it doesn't really show the edges. Shaded with hidden edges. So you can also see those edges that are hidden from view in dashed line. And we can also go into wireframe mode. Some people prefer modeling in wireframe mode. I would rather see the part rendered shaded with visible edges. Okay. Now, I said before that you can create 2D geometry on either a plane or a flat surface. Well, we have a flat surface now, or we have two flat surfaces. If I go back to create sketch, this time I'm going to pick one of these flat surfaces, doesn't matter which. And it brings it nicely into view, as if looking at a piece of paper. I'm going to pop a circle on there with the center as the center of the circle, and just make it, I don't know, 50 millimeter diameter, doesn't matter. So I've sketched a circle on the end of this small cylinder. I'm going to go right ahead and finish the sketch. I'm going to go back to the extrude tool. And I'm now going to set the operation from new body to cut. Now it's asking me to select a profile that's highlighted. So I'm going to pick, I could pick outside the circle, but I want to pick inside the circle. And I'm going to drag that arrow straight through the part like that. Okay, and I've gone way outside the part. And I'm going to hit OK, and it doesn't do anything very good. Do that again. Select cut. Cut that out there and hit OK. And that punches a hole straight through the part. Okay. So we used a circle to make the original cylinder. We then drew a circle on the end face, smaller circle to punch through the part. Okay, we've got this fillet tool. Again, where we were able to put a fillet on a corner of a 2D sketch, we can now fillet an edge. So if I pick the fillet tool, I'm going to pick this outer circle edge, and I'm going to make that 10 millimeters. And as you can see, it puts a nice rounded edge on there. Okay, I'll hit enter. Again, if we go into this section analysis and then choose that plane that runs through the center just there. Okay. And it shows us a cutaway of the part. So this hatched part is the solid. Obviously there's the hole and the filleted edges there. Also on the modify, there's not only fillet, there's chamfer or chamfer. I call it chamfer because I live in England. I'm going to hit that, and I'm going to look to the other edge. I'm going to choose that edge. Now this gives us, I'll choose 10 millimeters again. This gives us a nice flat edge like so. So it cuts away that sharp edge and makes it a flat face. Now, as you can see at the bottom here, we had our original sketch. We then extruded that. And then we sketched again this smaller circle. And we punched that through with a extrude cut. We then did a fillet and then a chamfer. So as you can see, this provides a history of how we actually designed this part, and we can drag this back to any point. Okay, and it takes us back to where we were, and I can drag it forward again to the end. Okay, now if I go back to this file structure, if I open up this bodies menu there, it tells us that we've got one body. If I expand the sketches menu, it tells us that we've got two sketches here, both constrained. They've got a tiny little red padlock, but this part has so far been made up of two sketches. Okay, now if I'm not happy with the size of the chamfer or the size of the fillet, I can go back into either of those. So let's choose the fillet. If I right click the fillet and edit that feature, I could change that to 5 millimeters. Hit OK, and it automatically updates the part because it's a parametric modeling system. Same with the chamfer. I could right click that, edit that feature, and make that 12 millimeters, for example. Hit OK and it updates it. I can also update these sketches that made the solid part. So if I go back to the original sketch, right click it, I can edit that sketch. I think, well, actually I wanted to make it 120 mil diameter, not 100. I can double click that and make it 120 mil. Hit enter. And when I go back up here to finish the sketch, it should update the entire part. If we use this measuring tool here, just to verify, and I pick this outer edge, it is indeed 120 millimeters diameter. I'll close it out. Okay. I'm going to create another sketch now. I'm going to click on the front. Incidentally, as I've clicked on the front, it's now upside down. I can use these small arrows to bring it back into the correct view. I'm going to pan across there, and I'm going to create on this front plane and I'm going to create a circle over here, and next to it I'm going to put a line. I'm going to put a dimension between the center of that circle and that line. I'm going to make that 50 millimeters. Okay. I'm going to finish the sketch, which brings my 3D tools back into play. I'm going to use this revolve tool now. And what this does is it revolves geometry around an axis and creates a solid as it goes round. So I'm going to click on that. It's automatically selected this closed profile. Sorry, it had selected it. And then I'm going to click select the axis and choose this line that we drew. And as you can see, It wants to make me a new donut shape. Hit OK on that. And so I've just created a circular profile around an axis to create this donut. Okay. Now, I'm going to create a new design. And I'm going to just save that as Nick Test 2. I go ahead and I'm going to sketch on this front plane like that. And I'm going to sketch a circle. Doesn't matter how large it is. And I'm going to hit Finish Sketch, bringing all of our tools back up. Right, I want to introduce you to the loft function now. What that does is it lofts between profiles, at least two. You can have more than two, but I want these profiles offset. So right now I've sketched this circle on this plane. I want to sketch another circle on a parallel plane but a distance away. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this offset plane tool up here, just above the construct word. I'm going to click that and I'm going to pick this circle and I'm going to type 100 millimeters. Now that is creating a plane 100 millimeters away from the circle, which I can sketch on. So I'm going to create a sketch and select that new plane. I'm then going to make a rectangle and I'm going to hit Finish Sketch. So as you see, I've now got a circular profile and 100 millimeters away, a rectangular profile. I'm going to make a third plane, another 100 millimeters away from this one. So I'm going to go right ahead and hit Offset Plane again. I'm going to choose this geometry, another 100 millimeters, and hit OK. Now I'm going to sketch on this new plane. Select this plane here, brings it into view, and I'm going to make a smaller circle, just like that. So now if we spin it round, and I'm going to hit Finish Sketch also. You can see I've got large circle I made first, offset a plane, created this square profile on the second plane, offset another plane, and made this small circle on the third plane. Now I'm going to use the Loft tool under Create. And what this does is it creates the best surface on these three profiles. So I'm going to pick the first profile, and then the second, and then the third. And as you can see, it's trying to fit this best surface on those three very different profiles. Before I go ahead and hit OK, I'd like to introduce some tangency or some blend at the ends. So I'm going to right click on Profile 1, which is this first circle, and I'm going to change Connected to Direction. And as you can see, it slightly changes the way that it exits away from that profile. It comes out normal before it starts coming upwards. And I'm going to do the same the other end for this small circle. I'm going to change that to Direction. I'm happy with that. I'm going to hit OK. And as you can see, it's made this almost like a vase, or a vase if you're in England. Okay. I'm going to put a fillet on this bottom edge. I'm just going to make that fillet 5 millimeters. Okay. So now I've got a solid shape, and I could check that using my section analysis. I've picked that central plane. It is indeed a solid shape. Cancel that. I'm going to use a new tool which is under Modify, called Shell. What this does is you select a body and select a face to delete, and it gives the entire part a wall thickness. So you've kind of shelled it out. So I'm going to select, as highlighted, this top face. And then it's asking me for a wall thickness, an inside thickness. I'm going to say 3 millimeters. And it previews what it's doing. So as you can see, it's hollowed out that part and made the walls 3 millimeters thick. I'll hit OK. Now if I go back into this inspect the section analysis and choose, let's select that plane, you can see that we've got a 3 mil thick shelled part. Go back into that and pull that right out. Okay. Okay, I'm going to drag a window around this and just hit delete to get rid of that. I'm going to create another sketch now. Let's just move this view cube, hit front, and create a sketch on the front. I'm going to make a spline. Double click at the end, hit escape. Now I like this function. I finish the sketch up here. Brings up my tools. Under here is sweep. What this does is it sweeps a shape along a path. Okay. So we've got the path there. We could use a straight line, doesn't matter. What we need to do though is be able to create a sketch on the end of this path perpendicular to one of the endpoints. So I need to create a sketch on a plane, but we don't have a plane currently that fits the bill. So I need to create one. If I go to the construct pull down, these are all the different planes I can create. I'm going to create a plane along a path. And I'm going to pick this path. Now it's telling me it's defaulted in this particular case to 0.419 distance along that path. I either want it 0 or 1 right at the end. I'm going to just choose 0. There it goes, and it pops it right to the end. I could choose 1, and it will pop it to the other end. It doesn't matter, I'll leave it there. Okay, so now if I spin it round, you can see there's a plane perpendicular to the end of that path. I'm going to create a sketch and pick that plane. And I'm going to make a circle. Just a smallish circle. Now you can see that circle is right on the end of that path. Okay, I'm going to hit finish sketch. And you can see what we have there. So when I go to sweep, I'm going to leave that at single path right now. There's a few options under there. It's asking me to select the profile first of all, so I'm going to pick that circle. And then I'm going to select the path, choose that path. As you can see, it sweeps that shape along this path, creating a solid. I'm going to leave that operation type as new body and hit OK. So we've got ourselves a nice, strange pipe with a weird path. Now, if I wanted to make that hollow, and I could have done this before, I'll just go back to the sketch here down the bottom that created that. I'm going to right click it and edit the sketch. And I'm going to make a small circle inside of that one. And then finish sketch. Now it hasn't picked up that I've got a separate circle in there. So what I need to go in and do is edit the feature, the actual sweep itself. So edit that feature. And the profile, I'm going to delete everything out, and I'm going to select the profile to be this annulus, like so, and hit OK. So now we've got a nice hollow tube along a strange path. Okay. I'm just going to drag a window around and hit delete on my keyboard to get rid of that. And I'm going to hit front on the view cube. Now, there are other ways of bringing solids onto the screen rather than creating them. We've got some default shapes: box, cylinder, sphere, torus, coil, pipe. So I'm going to hit the box, and what it wants me to do is pick a plane, pick a first and second corner, and then a distance for the height, either negative or positive, doesn't matter. So it's a kind of a fast track method of bringing a cube onto the screen. Similarly, there's a cylinder. I'm going to choose this plane. I'll place the circle there, and I'll just drag that to the height that I want. There's a sphere. I'm just going to pick a plane, choose my location, and I can make the sphere diameter as big as I like, 200 millimeters. Okay. There's a torus. I'm going to pick this plane here, I think. Pick a location, pick a size. And hit OK. And it doesn't do anything. Let's try that again. That's better. I'm going to change the operation from cut to new body. That was possibly what the problem was. I think there's a part already on there that's cutting into it. So let's try that one more time. Torus. There we go. You can change your inner diameter and torus diameter itself. Operation is new body. So that gives us that sort of ringed annulus torus shape. And if I create sketch and just put a line on here. Finish the sketch. And under create, we've got this pipe. If I pick the line, it wants to put a pipe along that line. Nice fast track method of creating a hollow pipe. Doesn't have to be hollow. We can turn the check button off for hollow and it just makes it a solid. I'm going to leave that on, and I'm going to keep the section thickness, or rather change it to 4 millimeters. And the section size, 50 millimeters. Okay. As you can see, it gives us a nice pipe. Let me just delete all of those. In fact, let's delete these. In the history tree, you can just right click and delete these things. I'm just cleaning up the graphics area. Okay, so it was becoming a bit glitchy, so I've just closed it down and reloaded it. Okay, the next thing I want you to look at is coil. It's a very useful feature. I'm just going to go ahead and pick a plane, pick a size, and gives you a helical or helix coil. Now you can play around with all of these settings. You can make it longer. You can change the amount of revolutions. Let's make 8 revolutions. You can change the diameter. 30. You can change the section size. Let's make that 8. Okay, so that's a very useful tool. Under modify, you can use move and copy. I hit move. Make sure I've got bodies selected. I'm going to choose the body and I can just move that around in any of the directions. Okay. If I go back into move copy, I can turn on create copy and that will give me a duplicate. Okay, whatever distance away in either direction. So very useful. And the last thing that I want to look at now is assigning material and color to a part. So if I pull down the modify menu and go to appearance, that brings up a window and we can assign materials to our models. So if I just scroll down, make sure I'm on Fusion 360 appearances. I've got lots of different materials. I'm going to open up metal. Let's just choose brass, some polished brass. If I now literally just drag this out and drop it onto our part and hit close, it gives it a kind of a brassy look. It's not fantastic, but we can play around with that in a moment. If I pull appearance back out under modify, there's our polished brass. I can double click that and I can actually change the color. I could make it more brassy looking, slightly golder, and hit done. Close this window down. And if I change our design environment to render, okay, that gives me a slightly better look. There's lots of tools up here, scene settings, where you can change the lighting. And we could hit, right now we could just hit in canvas render. And it starts to give us more of a presentation look. And this is going to take some time, a bit of processing power, but it will eventually get to excellent and final and gets better and better as it progresses. But I'm just going to stop that rendering right now. But it's a good idea to have a little play with those. And I'm going to go back into the design environment. So that's the end of video 1, everybody. It's a nice introduction to the 3D software. That should allow you to get all creative, have a play with the software, try and model some different parts up. In the next video, we shall be modeling up some bicycle handlebars, which will be good fun. In the meantime, take care, get creative, and I look forward to seeing you in video number 2. Thank you. Bye-bye.